Absolutely, yeah. Look,
100%.
absolutely, it does. Yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
absolutely. And being a challenge like this,
100%.
it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, absolutely. And like you kind of,
100%.
absolutely, absolutely. And who knows?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean,
Absolutely, yeah. He's doing
100%. All the
Welcome to the Absolutely 100% podcast, where combat sports journalist Dan Nguyen and featherweight mixed martial artist Justin Lockjaw Van Heerden cover all the latest talking points from the Aussie fight scene.
All right, and we're back. So, yeah, don't even know how long it's been since we've recorded an episode, but it's the Absolutely 100% podcast. We're back for episode 49 finally, and we've got a fair bit to cover off today. My name's Dan Nguyen, of course, your host. And we're going to be covering this weekend's Hex Fight Series 34. We're going to look back at Eternal MMA 93 this past weekend, and we're going to look at some of the big promotions, some of the news coming out of those as well. But before we do, of course, my co-host Lockjaw Justin Van Heerden's fighting this weekend at Hex Fight Series 34. Lockjaw, how are we going?
Yeah, we're in the thick of fight week, so we're, just those little things, the water load, getting a bit of a sweat up, the little things, just ticking off those little things. Obviously, the hard parts are out of the way, or most of it's out of the way. Now it's just like that little hurdle of a weight cut, and then Saturday we get to do the business.
It's just that, isn't it? It's just a little hurdle at this point now that you're up at lightweight.
Yeah. Obviously, it's a lot more, I guess, more dialed in, a lot smoother. Just in general, from obviously the more you do it, the more you refine it, the better you get at it. But then obviously, moving up in weight is a bit of a boost compared to featherweight, because that's a proper grind when I have to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So now we're up at lightweight. So yeah, you've got a huge assignment ahead of you for the lightweight title, which of course we'll get to. But before we look ahead to this weekend, this past weekend, we just had Eternal MMA 93 over in Perth. So it was another solid card. So I guess to give us your sort of reflection on the card overall.
Overall, for what we're sort of, I guess, used to for Perth and the cards that they put on, being that Scrappy is obviously based there, and they usually get a bunch of their fighters, and usually there's a bunch of exciting matchups. But I guess with a lot of the recent sort of fighters taking that leap to the next level, like, Cody Haddon, Quinn Selkill, those sort of guys, I guess was kind of obviously lacking a bit. I guess those stars, those hometown stars being on the card, obviously outside of Drillich being in the main event, there was, if you looked at it sort of on paper, you'd kind of look at the card and go, oh, it probably spread a bit thin and not really up to the usual sort of standard of excitement that we're looking for when we look at these cards in Perth that they do. But yeah, it was still pretty good. Like, it was, there was some good fights, amateur fights. There was some good fights. There was obviously in the main card, delivered. There was some exciting finishes and some cracking fights on that as well. So no, I think all in all, still was a really good card, and got to see some people debut, and we got to see some, like we said, we got to see some good finishes, and then we got to see Drillich come back in the main event and kind of re-cement himself after his stumble on the Contender Series.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll probably start sort of in the middle of that main card there. That was about when I turned it on, as well as we were talking about off air. But Fahud Kalatbar from Australian Top Team made his pro debut against Adam Lawrence and put on a pretty impressive showing in the end. He smashed Lawrence's leg with some pretty heavy leg kicks early on and looked pretty sharp standing up, and then finished it on the ground late on after a solid scrap. So what did you think of Fahud Kalatbar and his pro debut?
Yeah, I thought for being on debut, I thought it was I thought he showed a really high fight IQ, and then obviously was working well with the sort of prompts he was getting from Siman and the rest of his coaches in the corner, and then the adjustments round around, and then obviously ultimately finding the finish. But obviously you can sort of see the result of the hard work that he did in preparation sort of come together on the night. Obviously training at ATT with the people that he's got there, the people that he's grinding with every day. But then also he went to Thailand, I believe, and did a bunch of training and prep of his camp over in Thailand. So you can tell that he left sort of no stone unturned, as they say, and kind of did the work, prepared really hard, was diligent in every area, and then went out there and kind of put it all together. And obviously someone like Adam Lawrence, who we know has got heavy hands, big power, who we've seen him put some people away and do it violently. it was always going to be a banger of a fight, and we kind of got that right. We got a bit of a scrap, but then it was, I guess, Farhood was able to, use those tactics and things to kind of sway the fight his way round around, and then ultimately in the third round, find a finish, rear naked choke, win on debut, start off his pro career 1-0, and kind of set himself up for some exciting things, especially in that talent pool that they have at Eternal. So it'll be interesting to see what they sort of decide to do with him next.
Yeah, where do you see his potential? I guess. Yeah, how far can you sort of see him going? Just off. Obviously, it's a small sample, but I guess where do you see him going?
I could see him taking the same sort of, giving us that same sort of run that we saw someone like Josh Togo put together. This guy's going to be out there. He's going to be exciting. He's going to, he's got charisma. He likes to talk. He likes to sort of be in the spotlight, as they say. And he's kind of says things how they are, but like you can tell he's like a genuine dude and just kind of like a really nice guy. I think a lot of the time it is hard pressed for people that when they train at ATT, they kind of already get stuck with that. Oh, this guy's a fuckwit. Like we don't want to, people already kind of just assume that they're like going to be an idiot or whatever. But I think the genuine sort of demeanor and culture from that gym is they're just a bunch of guys who obviously, they just wear their heart on their sleeve, and especially their pride for their gym and the area that they're in and stuff like that. So I think a lot of the time that can be sort of misinterpreted, but he's like a genuinely nice dude. I've spoken to him a couple of times now and gone back and forth with him. He's a super nice guy. I just think it's man. If he keeps going out and performing like he did, on the weekend, I feel like he can, very quickly put together a solid run and then, get himself up for some bigger opportunities. Because keep in mind, I think, we could look at someone like Tom Nolan. If you just go out there and must-see TV, as they say, and you're putting people away and you're being violent, straight, and you're going to get something and something's going to happen. Like, you don't necessarily have to win a title or do things that way. There's going to be a different sort of pathway depending. But, he's got all the right things and he ticks all the boxes. And as a fan of fighting, you can kind of look at him and see why people would get behind him and be like, oh, fuck yeah, I want to see what this guy's going to do next. So I feel like he can do some pretty big things.
Yeah, and there are eyeballs watching this region now, aren't there? So, like, it doesn't take that long to sort of get the attention of one of the big promotions nowadays. And obviously we've got guys like Alex Volkanovski and Jack Della Maddalena who are sort of carrying the torch at the moment, and we'll get to them sort of later on in the episodes. But, the opportunities are there for fighters from this region now that probably weren't 10 or 15 years ago.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's sort of the thing now, like with the events that they're doing here, and then obviously the amount of Australian talent that's competing on the world stage, I feel like it's just going to benefit everyone else. So obviously they're going to sort of pay attention, because if you look at the Contender Series last year with the amount of Australian fighters that went on to Contenders and then were able to secure contracts and stuff, it's going to be, they're going to be consistently looking at what's going on here and kind of being like, okay, what have we got happening? Who we got coming through? And it's, they're going to realize, like, okay, if there's someone that people are like looking at going, fuck, this person's legit, the UFC is going to, and promotions like that are going to be like, okay, cool, because the proof's in the pudding, because the last few people they've signed are absolutely killing it. You look at what Cody Haddon's been able to do so far, you look at what Quinlan's been able to do, you look at what, Steve Erceg, Jack Della, all these guys like Jack Jenkins, all these people, what they're able to do. It kind of reinforces that okay, if we decide to pick someone from this region and give them a chance, they're going to go out there and perform. So, I think it's going to be the benefits there. If you just go out and do your job, like, the benefits are going to be there for you.
Definitely, and and the co-main event on the this past weekend was Percy and Wamby. Got the job done against Ryan Jankowski in the end. And Percy's another guy who sort of had a little bit of a look at a big promotion. He made his pro debut on One Friday Fights and came up short in a really close decision. But he's come back to the regional scene and picked up a really impressive win over Ryan Jankowski. So how did you see this one?
Yeah, I didn't think that. Like, obviously watching it, we've seen Percy utilize chokes to his advantage before. We've seen him slap on a couple of ninja chokes and that on people and kind of put people away in that sense. But I thought it was going to be a bit of a bit more of a sort of back and forth kind of fight, and I thought it was going to be like a bit more of a a high sort of high level chess match in a sense. But yeah, he was able just to get a hold of that neck, drop that anaconda choke, and was able to get the win. And it was put his opponent to bed, put him to sleep, and that's always that's really just puts a stamp on it, makes that victory even better, I guess, when you get a finish, but especially if you like chuck someone unconscious. But yeah, I guess it's just because he trains with the godfather of MMA, bro. So we've come to expect that we're going to see amazing things when Percy stands in there. I don't know if that's how much of that is just Percy's talent and how much of that is the coaching from that guy that's on Instagram and always posts reels about how awesome he is. But no, it's obviously cool to see someone like Percy in that division, and he's going to be, he's got some exciting fights there. And you can sort of see at flyweight, there's a few matchups there that could automatically from the jump now are going to be exciting. Like he wins one more or something, or one or two more, and then depending on what happens, if Drillich doesn't get picked up, you do him and Drillich as like a number one contender fight for the belt. That'd be a banger of a fight. Who wouldn't want to see that? So yeah, I know it's an exciting time for that division. It's an exciting time for someone like Percy now, who's obviously on a run, and like you said, he's gone for that sort of step up on a bigger stage. Obviously, kind of fell short a little bit, but coming back on the regional scene is going to feel like a cakewalk now to fight in front of the sort of crowds here on the regional scene, and you're there's no pressure now. Like you're not going to experience the same sort of pressure, I don't think. So, and same with Drillich, right? Fighting on like contender series. That's why a matchup between those two guys will be so intriguing, because they're just going to get out there. There's going to be high level. They're both very talented, and people are paying attention to what they're doing in there. So, I don't know. I'm intrigued by something like that getting thrown together.
Yeah, definitely. And, Drillich did his part, coming back to the regional scene as well, fought Brian Hislop from Scotland. So, got the job done as well. It was a bit of a, Hislop came out firing in that first round. He was throwing bombs, and he's not a small flyweight either. He was definitely pretty stacked, but Drillich was stayed patient. He was definitely measured in the early going, and he got the job done in the end. Yeah,
and I think too, obviously, he brought it, right? He came to try and knock Drillich's head into the fucking bleachers and try and, absolutely destroy him. So it was like, it was definitely, for that first part, it was kind of like, holy shit, what's going to happen here? It's like, who's going to connect first? And obviously a few times Drillich got close with that left hand that we've seen him pull people out with. So it was a banger for as long as it lasted. And then obviously, that's that neck thing, that second round, you're coming out and straight away again, just walking forward, throwing bombs. And then obviously Drillich was able to sort of adjust and capitalize, sort of rely on, I guess, the coaching that he got from Vickers and that in between rounds, and then kind of capitalize, get to the back, and then finish with a submission. So it was clean work from him again, sort of what we're used to. We're used to seeing Drillich come out there and do some really good work and kind of be flawless and get finishes. We're used to seeing him get finishes. So it wasn't surprising to see him go out there and get a submission. Although that wasn't on my fucking bingo card that he was going to win by submission. I thought he was going to sweep this dude with the left hand at some point, which there was opportunities for that, and he got close a few times. But ultimately, that's what the sport's about, right? It's mixed martial arts at the end of the day. You got to be able to mix up the martial arts. And Drillich can do that. So he's a guy with heavy hands. He's got cardio. He can go the distance, and he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So it's like the dude's well-rounded.
Yeah, showed his versatility there in the end. So where does it leave Drillich, right? Like you kind of alluded to before, there's some fun fights for him regionally, but how much longer are we going to see him on the regional scene? He had a go at Contender Series last year, had a competitive fight with Sean Gauchi. Now he's back. He's got another finish on the local scene. So how far away do you think he might be from another opportunity at sort of the next level?
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if they'd already got that, going back, that sort of correspondence going with sort of the UFC already, and they might already be, sort of putting a spot aside for him to go back on Contenders. We've seen people have get numerous opportunities on Contenders, whether they've won or lost. They've gotten a chance to come back after they've gone back and done some more work and won a couple of fights. So, I mean, it depends on what he wants to do. If he's keen to fight again ASAP, he'll probably, want to do that. But then that kind of, if he wins again, then that definitely cements him with a chance to jump back on Contenders and give that another crack and hopefully, get himself a contract. But I kind of, he's right there. Obviously, like there's only a couple of matchups regionally that make sense for him, but outside of flying in, more international opponents, etc. But that's the benefit when your coach has an MMA promotion. Like, you have opportunities where you can do that. So they could potentially just keep flying in some international competition for him, and kind of just, gets another couple wins, another couple finishes. I don't really feel like he needs to fight for the flyweight title again and kind of have to do that. You've done that. You've ticked that off. You just go out there and finish people and put people away. At the end of the day, the UFC wants to see people who are active, who are exciting and who finish fights, and he's doing that. So I feel like he's right there. He doesn't really have to feel like he needs to do a crazy amount, but I'd say one more max, and then we'd be probably seeing him on Contenders.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you can't be far away because he's got his body of work has been really impressive so far. Now, coming up this weekend, Hex Fight Series 34 down here in Melbourne. We've got 3 title fights at the top of the bill, so of course we'll break those down. But there's also some. I guess there's some fights that have fallen off as well. Unfortunately, Troy Fumo's out of his fight with Jake Hurl, which is a shame. But also your teammate Mina Hedaya had to withdraw from her big rematch with Lisa Kiriakou. So yeah, that was a disappointing outcome. And obviously feel for Amina. I don't know that she's ever sort of pulled out of a fight before. So yeah, how is she going?
Yeah, no, this obviously was. I think she was probably devastated, and I think kind of we were like a couple of us, like myself, Seb, and Colby, and that. I think we're all kind of like, because it seemed like there was something really bothering her, and something, and we were kind of like, and it was like a sparring session, and then I remember like afterwards, myself and Seb, and I was kind of like, man, I don't know, like I think there's something. I think there's something iffy going on, and she's just a trooper, and we'll just keep trying to push through regardless of what's happening. So she's like, kind of just like, whatever, out of sight, out of mind. Like, who gives a fuck? But then, obviously, when I saw, when we found out that she was out, it was kind of like, she was pretty devastated. And then, like, as you can expect, but like you sort of touched on there, it's the first time she's ever had to pull out from a fight. So that feeling's pretty shit. That's a shitty feeling to have to deal with, especially because you are kind of projecting that onto your opponent, because if it's happened to you, especially when someone's pulled out of a fight for you, you know what it feels like. So you kind of carry it a bit more, I guess. And even if it's out of your control, like something like this, it's out of your control. Injuries happen. It's a fucking contact sport. But yeah, it's just shit because it was a big fight. It's a good rematch. It's a crucial fight for both girls. So I feel like, it's just shitty because I know she really wants to get that fight back. Obviously, with how the first fight went and how that decision went, there was obviously that motivation to go out there and kind of put a stamp on it this time, and really go out there and perform and kind of put it to bed and do it in a big way, much like I imagine for Lisa, she would, she's approaching that fight the same way. She would have wanted to get in there and put a stamp on it. And it just kind of, as a fan of fucking MMA and regional MMA, it just kind of sucks because you don't get to see that fight happen, because obviously I was hyped as fuck to watch that fight, and I'd be hyped as fuck to watch it regardless of if Amina was my teammate or not. But so that kind of sucks. But we lost a couple of fights, but still a decent fucking card that's sort of set to happen this weekend. So no, it's exciting times.
Yeah, definitely. Are we looking at a long-term injury? I don't know how much you can say or not, but
as far as I know, she already started doing some sort of rehab stuff, and she's going through the motions. We've got some good people around us at South Coast Health Hub and stuff that are sort of guiding that side of things. So I imagine, but as far as I know, I haven't heard that she's going to have, I don't know if she's going to have like a surgery or anything like that yet. I haven't really I haven't really gone into that much detail with her, but I just know that she's recovering and doing the things that she's supposed to do. So hopefully, fingers crossed she doesn't need surgery. You heal up, do some sort of stuff, tick some rehab, all that sort of stuff you got to do, and then you kind of tick off those boxes and get back to it. But obviously, if you have to have surgery, then there's a bit of a sort of a delay on that, a bit more of an extension on that. But thankfully, Amina is still pretty young, so if she has to have a bit of a layoff for a surgery and stuff like that, it's something you can do, and you can come back, and then you can be like, I'm sweet, and carry on as normal. So I don't know, we'll see it. But as far last I heard, it was like very optimistic in regards to how bad the injury is and how long the layoff might be.
Yeah, okay, that's good news. That's good news. And yeah, Amina's put in a pretty huge body of work in the early part of her professional career. So yeah, I think she can afford to sort of put her feet up and heal an injury for a little while before getting back to it.
Yeah, 100%. And obviously, it's just one of those things. Like, she just wants to go and go and go. And like you sort of touched on there, she's so active and she's pretty much just fights, and continues, wants to just fight all the time. So obviously that's going to be that's frustrating and probably not what she's used to now, having to sort of take a step back. But all in all, you got to kind of just do that and tick off the right boxes, because your body is a big essential for this sport. So you can't just kind of skate your way through.
Yeah, I mean, your body is your, that's your trade at the end of the day, isn't it? When you're an athlete, so you got to make sure you do things right, and yeah, sure she will. So we've got a fair bit on the card, a fair bit of your featherweight history actually involved in the card. Just looking down there, and one of the early fights is Sem Kakembo, who was someone who you were signed to fight, or you weren't signed to fight, who knows? But one person you did sign to fight and did actually fight was his opponent, Josh Trambulo. So yeah, I think you probably know a fair bit about this matchup. So how do you see that one playing out?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a good fight for however long it lasts. I really don't see it going the distance. I feel like on the feet, Josh has a lot of threats, especially with that southpaw style and the power that he has in his hands. These guys got some power in his fucking hands. So I feel like on the feet, he's got the potential to be able to find some holes and use the fact that he's southpaw, and use those awkward sort of things that he does in there, and the heavy hands that he has to kind of like really, put Sem in danger. But then, like we sort of touched on with each other off air, I feel like Sem's going to have, he's a well-rounded mixed martial artist with the skills in every area, but he's going to have a clear advantage in the grappling, I feel. So I wouldn't be surprised if Sem, comes out, uses his range like we're used to seeing, a lot of front kicks, flicks up a lot of kicks, kind of keeps that range. And then when Josh starts to commit more and come forward and look to sort of put hands on him, I feel like that's when we're going to see Sem kind of grab a hold of him, get him down, get his back, and then look to, use his sort of slick grappling skills and kind of find a submission. I'd kind of be, wouldn't be surprised if that's the sort of approach that they take, especially, if you go back and look at some of Josh's fights, that's maybe an area where he's had to sort of, he's kind of stumbled a little bit in some fights. Like, that's how in my fight with him, I was able to sort of capitalize on that area and be able to sort of get to a position on his back and be able to finish the fight. So I imagine he's done, that was a few years ago. So I imagine he's obviously improved a tremendous amount since then and added a lot more feathers to his cap and kind of like done the work to be diligent in all areas. But someone like, there's a difference between your training partners grabbing you and looking to employ the grappling and threats that you sort of need to expect, and then actually dealing with it from someone like Sem, who does have pretty good grappling, pretty slick grappling and good transitions. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see how it pans out. But I mean, am I going to be surprised if it goes the distance, or even see the second round? I'm going to be very surprised, because I think both guys can definitely finish the fight, and I'll be expecting that. But yeah, I guess we're going to see how it pans out. But I'm sort of leaning more towards the fact that I feel like, unless early on Josh can land one of those big shots, I feel like it's only a matter of time before Sem finds the opportunity to get a hold of him, and then yeah, we're going to see some problems in that area, because Sem's going to be able to sort of grind him out, find a finish, and catch his neck or an arm or a leg or something, and then ultimately that's going to be a wrap. But yeah, I mean, I hope I'm wrong and we get like an absolute scrap for 3 rounds and it's a high-level fight and we see both guys employ their skill sets. But I'm leaning towards Sem. If I were to pick, I'm leaning towards Sem just because of the grappling, the disadvantage in the grappling area.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way, doesn't it? But yeah, I think it'll be pretty entertaining as long as it lasts. But yeah, so after that one, your recent opponent, Raf Scott, is back in action against Nikos Trepka, who I don't feel like we've seen Nikos in a little while. So yeah, how do you see that matchup?
Yeah, Yeah, we haven't seen Nikos fight in a while. I know he's in recent times. He was sort of, I think he took more of a coaching, sort of cornering, I guess, position, and kind of just done that things, especially with Michael Barber, because obviously he was in Michael's corner in New Zealand when I fought him, and then he was obviously in his corner for the fights after that, like the fight with Sam and Della and all that sort of stuff. So I think he's kind of was doing more focused on that side of things. But it's good to see him back, man. I like watching him fight. He's very durable. You know, he's got good wrestling, good control on the ground, and just grinds people out and breaks them down and kind of just melts them. So he's interesting to watch fight, and he's just a likable dude. He's super nice. So obviously, shared the cage with Raf and know what he's able to do. And if you look at his record, all his fights that he's won have been finishes. So the guy, he either gets in there and gets the job done and puts people away, or he doesn't fuck around. He's not there to try and go to decisions. So no, I think it's been an interesting fight. I feel like the wrestling is probably more in Nikos's favor, I guess, in the wrestling sort of side of things. But then obviously we know that Raf's got really good, really slick, opportunistic sort of submissions. And especially we saw him, throw up some stuff off the back and stuff like that. And then obviously on the feet, he's very awkward. Like, he moves very awkward on the feet. It's kind of, and then even when I sort of looking at when I fought him, it was kind of weird to try and pick out some of the movements that he was doing, because he was just moving in such an awkward way. And then obviously he utilizes his kicks really well. He utilizes the teeps and those stabbing front kicks real well. So it was kind of like trying to pick that out. And then he's really good at going to the body, like using his lead hand to touch to the body to kind of get you thinking that he's going to dip for a shot or sort of commit to that, and then sort of look to come over the top and put hands on you. And then obviously we've seen him in fights too. He can fight in the clinch real well. He's got good elbows, good knees. So I feel like, looking at it, there's a clear advantage to Nikos in the wrestling sort of side of things. And I'd even say positionally in the MMA grappling, just being able to control. But then he's got to deal with submission threats that are very dangerous. Even if Raf is on his back, he can still finish the fight at any point. He can sneak up an armbar triangle, whatever he's obviously got. He's got that in his bag. He's shown that. But then I just feel like on the feet, the way he moves, the awkwardness of his movement, and the sort of tools that he utilizes, like he really uses his length and his reach with both his arms and his legs real well. And then does it from awkward movements and angles and the way that he dips and rolls and stuff like that. So I'm leaning toward him having a bit of an advantage on the feet just because of how awkward it is, and I feel like he's got more tools. So I feel like, looking at it on paper, it's that classic grappler versus more striker matchup, but both guys then have the tools in the other department to kind of, I guess, turn the fight in their favor. But I don't know, being in there with Raf, I feel like on the feet, if Nikos can't really find his way to that inside position to get his hands on him, he's going to struggle a lot, and he's going to struggle to get the timing. And I feel like Raf's going to be able to really, really hurt him. And especially if he's using those kicks to attack the body and stuff like that. Like I said, he's just so awkward and sneaks it in. Like, even when he caught me to the liver with that kick, it was just so weird. I didn't read it at all. I thought, didn't even sort of register that it was coming at that angle and going at that target. It looked like it was going to come up the middle and come up to my head or to the face. Like, looked like a standard sort of Anderson Silva front kick. And I was like, next thing you know, I'm holding my liver going, what the fuck's going on? So, I feel like that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I ultimately feel like Nikos gets a hold of him. It's going to be very hard for Raf to get back to his feet, because Nikos has shown that he's real good at controlling people on the ground and just kind of doing enough, damaging, wearing them out. And then as it goes, the more he cooks them, the more tired they get, then he ultimately capitalizes on that. So I feel like if I'm Raf and I do get taken down by Nikos, I'm threatening submissions straight from the jump. I'm trying to do triangles, arm bars, at least create space to get back up. And then if I'm on the feet, I'm looking to employ all of those kicks, punches, elbows, knees, everything, throw stuff up the middle and kind of just pick them apart. But I feel like it's going to be a banger because, like I said, Raf doesn't really come in and fight boring. He gets after it and comes forward, and obviously Nikos does as well. So it should be fireworks.
Yeah, it's another intriguing matchup, isn't it? And yeah, once they're done, then another of your former opponents or multiple-time opponent, Michael Barber, is back in there. He's fighting Marwan Rahiki, who's a sort of undefeated prospect. So it's kind of I don't know. It kind of feels almost like a bit of a crossroads fight, I guess. Like obviously Barber's back in the win column, had a huge win, and Rahiki's a guy on the rise. So yeah, I guess how do you see it playing out?
Someone's going to die. Someone's going to sleep. I don't see either guy shooting a takedown. I don't see Marwan. Unless it goes to like the second round, or even definitely into the third round, then I could probably see Luke Pizzuti and that, giving Marwan the recommendation to start wrestling and start shooting, because obviously we know Barber don't stop coming forward, and if you fight in that inside position with him and in the clinch and in that dirty boxing sort of area, like he's going to fucking do work. So Marwan's obviously got beautiful striking, really good range, very technical. We've seen that in his fights, and especially in the knockout that he had over Manu, like very clean, very precise, no wasted movement, very good technical striker. So I don't really know how good his grappling and his wrestling is. I haven't, because I just haven't seen it. But I imagine training at Lions Den, sharing the mats with someone like George Mangos, Michael Stanoff, the sort of bodies that they have to work with there, he's probably going to be handy in that area too, I'd imagine. But yeah, I feel like someone's getting put away in this fight, man. I feel like it's going to stay on the feet for as long as it lasts, and I feel like someone's going to sleep. And whether that's Marwan landing one of them beautiful kicks or liver shots that we've seen him utilize, or something like that from range, and just using his range and his weapons successfully, or Barber just walking him down, breaking him down, making him tired, making him wilt, and then just putting the hands on him until he eventually leaves an opening and gets fucking sent to outer space. So I don't know. I'm intrigued by this fight because since the first time I fought Barber, I've never ever bet against Barber in a fight. I don't think I would want to, because that dude, how can you? He just fucking keeps coming. But I will say, looking at that Abdullah fight and watching it back, obviously we know Michael comes forward and he puts hands on people and he makes it dirty and makes it gritty, but I don't think he got enough credit for in that fight how technically sound he was. I mean, there was a few times where it looked like Abdullah, because when Abdullah throws shots, he throws everything into it. So regardless of if it lands or not, it looks like it's crazy and brutal and like it's got through or snuck through. But a lot of the stuff really didn't land clean. Like there's a few things that did, and then obviously his nose did get broken. But there's like a few things that snuck through or whatever. But ultimately, I feel like Michael showed a high level, sort of skill in that fight. He was able, and he was really making really good decisions, really good fight IQ. Used the clinch when he needed to, fought in the clinch when he needed to, broke away when he needed to, knew when to press, knew when to sort of hold off, and even when he got some adversity, knew when to kind of, take a second to sort of reset and then get back on the grind. So I don't know. I feel like this is a crazy fight. It's going to be like an absolute banger of a fight for the people that are going to be sitting there watching. And I don't know. Like I said, I just don't see it going the distance. It's one of those fights where I guess on paper, if you look at it, and especially because you look at Michael's record, and if you will kind of put odds on a fight, you're probably going to lean towards Marwan, obviously. But I don't know. This fight's a pick'em fight for me. It's just going to be who fucking lands first, who finds that shot and puts the other one away. And it's the battle of the clean, technical Gokhan Saki, Israel Adesanya, Badahari fucking style, kickboxing phenom striker against like the fucking brawler, dirty boxing fucking absolute animal that Michael Barber is, and it's just going to be who finds that shot first. So I'm fucking hyped for that. I'm keen to watch that fight.
Yeah, I was pretty much going to say exactly what you touched on there. It kind of, on paper, you would look at the records and you would think this is like a kind of like a gatekeeper sort of situation. But Michael Barber's a guy you can't bet against. He was probably a heavy underdog against Abdullah in his last fight, and he looked sensational in that fight. Those elbows were nasty, and the hands are on point. So Rahiki's going to have his work cut out for him this weekend. Another person who's going to have their work cut out is yourself this weekend, Justin. You're going to be in action fighting for the Hex lightweight title against Kieran Joblin. So you asked specifically for Kieran after your fight against Raf Scott. So yeah, now you've got your wish. So first of all, why was it Kieran that you asked for? And give us your thoughts on the matchup now that it's here.
Initially, it was because I looked at the talent pool at lightweight, and obviously with the stuff with Eternal, Hex, and stuff, there's people that are tied to Eternal, and there's obviously people that are able to fight on Hex. And it was kind of just looking at the lightweights that I'd want to share the cage with, and obviously a new weight class, new matchups. Joblin's kind of the name that stuck out the most based on the fact that he's got a really good record. He's very experienced. He's fought everyone. It's like, he's world class, super dangerous, comes from like one of the best gyms in the world with some of the best coaches in the world. So it kind of just was like, looking at it, it was like, that's the type of fight you'd want, for a title fight. And that's the kind of opponent and the caliber of opponent that you'd want. And being on the fact that there's just that storyline there that I touched on in the lead up, now that I've been touching on that, like, when I was an amateur guy coming up in the scene, I fought on a few cards that Joblin was headlining, where he's fought the who's who of Australian MMA, like Kieran's fought like Brendan Mumford, he fought like back then fought like Isaac Hardman, like those types of guys. And I was like fighting as an amateur on his cards and kind of got to see him fight. So the storyline's fucking really cool that I get to go out there and share the cage with someone who's so experienced and so well rounded, and who I feel doesn't get the credit that he deserves. And arguably probably should have got picked up for somewhere like the UFC or something like that a lot, like ages ago. So I think it's cool. It's just a cool storyline, and he's just a likable dude, man. I think he's I think he's the man. So I'm excited to share the cage with him and finally step in there and get to sort of test myself against someone of his caliber. And looking at it for what it is now, especially like this is without a doubt the biggest fight I've had in my career so far. So I'm excited. I know he's going to be well prepared. We obviously have that connection between our two gyms and our coaches and everything like that. So, I know he's going to be well prepared. He's got some great minds that are sort of behind him. He's obviously going to be prepared. He's going to have done the work. He's going to be fit. He's going to be ready. So it's exciting. It's exciting that I get to get in there and, kind of share the cage with someone like him. But at the same time, it's cool because it's a high-level opponent, and for as long as this fight lasts, it's probably going to be one of the most high-level mixed martial arts fights you'll see on the regional scene, because it's not often that you get two guys that are as experienced as us and as dangerous and well-rounded, and from the teams and gyms that we're from and with the people that we share the mats with. Like, this is going to be a high-level MMA fight, and you can expect across the board that you're going to see high-level mixed martial arts. And then ultimately, I feel like for as long as it lasts, that's what it's going to be. But I'm going to be able to be looking from the jump to put him away and get him out of there. But just going to be when and how that happens.
So what does Kieran Joblin bring to the table? What's the biggest threat that's going to face you this Saturday night in the cage?
I think his experience, and I feel like his experience, and being that he's fought the amount of fights he's fought, and he's been there, done that. It's just going to be the biggest threat I see from him is letting him utilize that experience in positions and in exchanges where he can kind of just, for example, like if I got taken down by him, or I didn't, wasn't sort of hasty and wanting to get back to my feet or secure top position, if I just let him settle in a position, he's going to do what he needs to do. He's going to do enough where he's controlling you. He's doing enough where he's damaging you. Just kind of taking away at your health bar, we could say, until you sort of draining. He's going to do just enough. He's not going to rush. He's not going to put himself out of position. Like, he's going to be perfectly fine with sitting on top of you for 3 minutes, landing short little shots like this, just wearing you out, pulling you back down, just grinding you out. And I feel like across the board, that's going to be the sort of biggest threat. He's experienced. He's been there. He's done that. So if I allow him to kind of just feel comfortable in the fight and kind of settle into, whether it's on the feet, in the grappling, in the wrestling, that's a problem. Like, I can't do that. And ultimately, I feel like that's for both of us. Like, we can't do that. Like, he can't settle. I can't settle. we can't lapse at any point. You got to, I've got to be on for 25 minutes if it goes that far, and he's got to be on for 25 minutes if it goes that far. But I feel like the biggest threat that I have the biggest threat is going to be the fact that he is so experienced and won't make silly mistakes and won't put himself out of position to sort of try and finish the fight. Like, he's going to just find it, and then when the opportunity's there, if I fuck up, he's going to be able to capitalize on it. So, no, I'm intrigued by that, but obviously, looking at it, and obviously we've trained together before as well at Freestyle. Like, he's been there for Vox Camp and we've shared the mats and that. So I kind of, I've moved around with him, I've sparred with him, I've grappled with him, I've wrestled with him. Like, I know he's dangerous. I know he's very skilled, and I know he's very experienced. So I have that it's kind of reinforced that what I'm saying is I know I can't settle or lapse or think that I can cruise with this guy, because I can't. He's very dangerous and very, very experienced. But ultimately, I feel like with the way I move now on the feet, especially, and the sort of tools that I have, I still haven't really even given people a full glimpse of sort of that. There's been sort of little things here and there, but I feel like once I start utilizing some of the stuff I have in my back pocket, it's going to start opening up a few more things for me. But ultimately, I know, and everyone else knows, that is going to watch this fight or break this fight down. Like, if you let me get a hold of you and I get my hands on you, it's a wrap. Like, I'm gonna find it. I'm gonna find your neck and I'm gonna put you to sleep if you don't tap, or vice versa. So I feel like he's going to be aware of that. I'm definitely aware that if I lapse in positions, he can do the same thing. But I feel like there's going to be a clear difference in threat with if I'm starting to level change walking forward, or if I'm starting to suggest like I'm going to start using my wrestling, or I start getting a hold of him, or when I grab him that first time, I definitely feel like there's going to be a sense of panic, or like a bit of like, oh shit, because yeah, everyone knows what I do when I get a hold of people. So I feel like if he makes a mistake, shoots a lazy shot, just lapses in positions in the grappling and the wrestling, like, I'm going to grab your neck and you're going to go to sleep.
Yeah, I mean, you said you've sort of shared the mats together. That was something I was going to ask about. Did you sort of, I guess, you probably grapple with someone like that, or train with someone like that, thinking that you might have to fight them eventually. Was there anything that you sort of gleaned from those times on the mats that you can maybe use this weekend? Obviously, you can't say too much, but did you learn some things about him that you're going to bring to the cage on Saturday night?
I'd say more so the things that I don't want to allow him to use. Things that I don't want him to have on the table is kind of more what I sort of got out of that. Like, obviously, I always thought it'd be cool to fight someone like Kieran, and it'd be sick to share the cage with him. But even back then, like, I never thought I'd ever fight him. Like, obviously, I never thought I'd share the cage with him. It wasn't sort of like on my radar, like when I was moving around with him going like, fuck, I could fight this dude one day. But I think I got a lot of stuff, like, and I imagine he as well, like, would have a lot of stuff that it's the same sort of thing where it's like, oh, okay, I definitely know what I don't want this dude to be able to do, and I don't want to allow him to do, and sort of take that off the table. And then obviously, yeah, there's a few things that I'm pretty confident I can capitalize on. And I think it's pretty clear, right? Like, it's pretty clear. I've shown in my fights, like, a kind of sort of very similar to sort of Charles Oliveira. If you kind of give me that opening, whether it's on the feet or in the grappling or wherever it might be, like, I'm going to find a finish. I'm not just going to get an advantage in the position or like sort of capitalize on that. Like, I'm going to find a finish. So I feel like he knows that, I know that, and it's pretty clear what my intentions are. Like, whether it's with my, with the striking or with my grappling, like, I'm going to be looking to capitalize on the finish and put this dude away early. And I feel like he's going to be looking to do the same. But I just can't let, like I said, I just can't let him settle in positions, and I can't let Kieran Joblin be Kieran Joblin. I've got to put him out of his element, and I'd almost take a nod to his fight with Isaac. I've kind of like got to fluster him and kind of put him out of his comfort zone, and that's going to open up the fight for me and sort of give me a really good chance to sort of win the fight and put him away, because he's the dude's so experienced, he's so calm in there. He's not going to. There's nothing like conventionally that I'm going to bring to the table that he hasn't seen. He's been in there like for 50 fights or some shit nearly. So it's like the dude's going to be, he's going to have seen a lot of stuff. He's going to have experienced a lot of stuff. He's been in positions where he's been on the bottom and has to get up. He's been into fights where he's had to dig deep and come out for a 5th round. He's been in fights where he's had the shit beat out of him and have to dig deep and gone through adversity. He's done it all, and he's had the fights where he's jumped on finishes and put people away and stuff like that. So I don't really feel like, I feel like, if I just come and approach this fight and I'm just kind of cruising and letting him kind of settle in positions, it's going to be a fucking bad night for me. So I just can't afford to do that. And I've just got to, trust in my preparation, trust in my work, and just know that my skill set's going to be able to get the job done for me. And ultimately, from the minute that bell goes, I'm going to be looking to put him away. And if he slips for half a second, I promise you, he's going to be looking up at the ceiling, wondering what happened, and I'm going to be holding that Hex lightweight title, and then we're going to go share a beer after, and then that'll be it.
Give us a prediction. Put a stamp on it here.
I reckon I'm going to snatch his neck and submit him inside two rounds. I'm going to snatch his neck.
Love it. All right. Co-main event, the Hex interim heavyweight title. Why have I forgotten who holds the heavyweight title? Who is it?
Randall Ray.
Of course. Right. Yeah, there you go. I assume he'll be awaiting the Randall Raymond will be awaiting the winner of Ricky Beechin versus Ken Viliamu. So, yeah, how do you see that one playing out? Probably not for 5 rounds, right?
Nah. But although Ken's got a good gas tank, I watched him fight on Eternal, and he went the distance with on an Eternal fight that he fought, and it was a banger. Like, it was high pace. Like, he was throwing consistently and combinations, not just one-off big power shots like you see from heavyweights. Like, he was doing spinning wheel kicks and throwing fucking combinations and just constant work rate. So I'm pretty confident that dude can go the fucking distance if needed, but I don't see it going the distance because, Ricky's shown that he can pull people away, and he's a fucking huge human being. Ken's a huge human being, and we know what happens. You get 2 huge human beings in there, they start throwing them 4-ounce gloves around, and people start dying. So I feel like it's not going to last. But fuck, man, I feel like Ricky probably has an advantage in the grappling side of things, and especially with the team that he sort of prepares with, the Australian elite team, and trains with, like, obviously Jake Matthews and Kit Campbell, Jimmy Crute. He's fucking grappling and wrestling Jimmy Crute, something like that, on the fucking daily. So I imagine he's going to have some slick sort of stuff up his sleeve in that area as well. But then obviously at the end of the day, heavyweight's kind of fun because even if their striking's average, they're big enough human beings that if like a punch lands, someone dies. So it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. But that's another thing too. Ricky's obviously got good striking, good boxing, good hands as well. And like I said with Ken, he's got fucking spinning wheel kicks. This dude's throwing knees, elbows, fucking expect some crazy shit from this guy. So I don't see this fight going the distance. And fuck, I don't even know who I'm sort of leaning towards because it's like, it's one of those things. It's like, because it's a heavyweight fight, but also I'm a big fan of both guys. I kind of want to see, I wish there was a way that both guys could win and then we could figure that out, but it's not going to happen. So I don't know. I probably won't pick a winner in this fight, but I'm definitely going to lean towards the fact that someone's going to go to sleep, and then big bad Randall Ray is going to be there waiting for him. And obviously, we heard what he said. He said, I'm probably not going to get to the UFC or anything like that, but if you want to get to the UFC, you've got to get through me, and that's not happening. So let's go. So I'm excited.
Yeah, what an incredible line that is. He's just there to crush people's dreams, isn't he?
He's a fucking supervillain. That's what he is. He's an absolute one-of-a-kind supervillain. But he's a weapon and he can fight. So, and his grappling is for a heavyweight. His grappling is disgustingly good.
Yeah, it is. So it's an intriguing matchup awaits the winner of the co-main event. But in the main event, another of your former opponents, George Mangos, defending his featherweight. Yeah, there's just Lockjaw written all over this card, to be honest. But George Mangos is defending his featherweight title, this time against someone who you were announced to be fighting a little while back, Ethan Thomas, which Yeah, it was obviously a presumptuous sort of announcement in the end. I don't believe that there was sort of anything in it. But anyway, you've obviously know a thing or two about Ethan Thomas and, of course, George Mangos. So how do you see this the Hex featherweight title fight playing out in the main event?
Yeah, it's an intriguing fight. I'm actually surprised that George is fighting. I thought maybe potentially he'd probably look at chilling on what he's, chilling and kind of just seeing what the options are, especially he's signed with Chosen Advisory now and stuff like that. So it's kind of like maybe see what the options are, or maybe look for something overseas, or maybe even do something like that, like fly in someone from overseas or something. So I was surprised when they announced that this was the fight that they're doing, because it's a bit of a weird one, right? Because if he beats Ethan, it's another win for him. Hopefully if he can get another finish, or all goes well for him, he beat, whatever. It's like he beats him, but it's kind of like, okay, cool, whatever. I don't want to say it's expected, but it's expected. Kind of people are going to be like, oh, that was meant to happen. And for Ethan, it's like a fucking huge gain, right? It's like, fuck. How do I sort of say? It's kind of like when I fought George, right? It's just with the difference of it's not expected that I was going to beat George, because obviously George is super skilled, super dangerous. But I was gaining probably just another win and like a tiny bit out of that fight if it went my way. Whereas George obviously had everything to gain. And I feel like this is a similar position. George has put himself in a similar position now where he's fighting Ethan. Ethan's got everything to gain. George is going to, at most, you get another win and another finish, which is cool, but you're risking a lot for not much of a gain. Like, at least if he's fighting someone from overseas, like maybe they flew someone in with like a winning, like someone who's like another dude, maybe he was fucking undefeated or something from Japan or some fucking wherever, then at least you look at that and you go, okay, well, yeah, whatever, like this is, that kind of makes it a bit different. But yeah, it just seems like it's a fucking lot of risk for not much reward, where for Ethan, it's all of the reward for not much risk, to be honest, because like he's a bit of a sort of anomaly, because the guy's obviously such a high level grappler. Obviously won ADCC trials, competed at ADCC. He's high level wrestling, high level grappling. He's very durable. So it's kind of, and doesn't really take much damage in the fights. So even when fights haven't gone his way, it's not really that he's taken much damage or anything like that, or even really been, or anything like that sort of happened. And I sort of look at his fight with Costa too, man. Like he out-grappled Rod Costa, and it was a high-level fucking fight, and the grappling exchanges were disgusting. But end of the day, he out-grappled Costa and was working, which is crazy. So, like, do I think that George can hang with him in the grappling? I wouldn't be going out of my way to grapple with him if I was George. Obviously, George is very skilled, but I just feel like Ethan, I wouldn't be going out of my way to grapple with Ethan, because that's his path to victory. I would just take that off the table. And George has shown that he can do that, because his last opponent was a highly touted grappler as well. But, George was able to sort of keep the standing and then kicked his head off. Yeah, if I can kick his head off and put him away. I'm intrigued by this fight, man. I'm excited, especially now, because it's not like I'm actively looking at both guys as a featherweight, being like, oh, what's going to happen here? I'm just looking at it as purely a fan of MMA and kind of breaking it down. And obviously, I've shared the cage with George, and I followed a bit of what Ethan's been up to, and obviously looked into him a bit as well. So I'm just excited. It's an intriguing fight, man. But I feel like if George limits the grappling of Ethan, is able to kind of not let Ethan get a hold of him and kind of start playing that game, especially like with the legs, like even off a takedown or off a grappling exchange, if fucking Ethan rolls for a leg, it's going to be a fucking problem. Like, it's going to be a big problem. So I feel like if I'm George, I'm just taking that away, and I'm going to do what I did in my last fight, and stay clean, crisp on the feet, stay balanced, stay focused, stay calm, and just look to land that shot, put him away, and ride off into the sunset, and look to sort of move myself onto bigger and better things. So I don't know, but at the same time, like, I definitely don't think it's obviously on paper, and like I sort of said, everyone's expecting George to win. George is expecting that he's going to win. Everyone watching is expecting George is going to win. But, I definitely think George is obviously he's confident and he believes in himself. He's expecting he's going to go out there and win. But he's definitely, I can guarantee you, he's definitely not taking this dude lightly. He's done the work. He's prepared. And obviously, you know, we have that connection with Vex and stuff like that, and PRP and stuff like that. So, you know, you're seeing like little glimpses of what this guy is doing in preparation and stuff. And fuck, man, he's just going to be on. He's going to be ready. He's going to be prepared. And it's going to be a banger of a fight. I would honestly not be surprised if it goes a few of the rounds. Like it might even be the first time we see George go into the championship rounds, and have to sort of deal with coming out for that 4th and 5th round. Because obviously, I'm pretty sure outside of his fight with me and maybe Jarrett, he's not really gone out of the first round in the other fights, right? Like he's put everyone away. So I think Jarrett took him to a 2nd round, and we obviously went to the absolute final seconds of that 3rd round. So I think outside of that, he's gone. It's been first round finish, if I'm not mistaken. So that's going to be interesting to see if it goes that far. If it goes that far, it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. But because we know someone like Ethan with his style and his skill set, he's going to be able to do that for 5 rounds because he's very smart and energy efficient. He's going to be able to, you know when to go, when not to go. He's going to be able to control and kind of just sap his opponent if he gets a hold of them. But yeah, I'm intrigued by this fight. But I mean, looking at it, obviously I can see both guys have passed the victory. I can see how both guys' skill sets can come into play. But honestly, I got to lean towards George Mangos. I think George Mangos is going to be able to. He's going to get put through some adversity with the grappling, but I feel like he's going to be able to stay calm. He's going to be able to find his moment, and he's going to be able to land that shot and close the night in a big way. And I feel like we're going to see another big finish for George Mangos.
Yeah, it's hard to bet against someone who's been as impressive as George has thus far in his pro career. But as you know, there are no guarantees in this sport, so it's going to be a very intriguing battle this Saturday, March 1st at Hex 34. Now we're going to look internationally just before we wrap up. So at 171 in Qatar this past weekend, we said goodbye to an Aussie pioneer. In terms of, if we said goodbye to him in terms of a competitive sense, it was Martin Nguyen. Hung up the gloves. He left his gloves in the circle after he was defeated by Shamil Gasanov by unanimous decision. I felt like, to be honest, I felt like that matchup was a bit of a stitch-up. I don't know if one knew that it was going to be Martin's last fight or anything like that. I think he had more fights on his contract, but he's decided to pull the pin. But I would have loved to have seen him fight Tan Le again. I thought that would have been a really cool way to go out. But he had a crack against Shamil Gasanov, who's obviously a wrestler from Dagestan. So it's obviously hard to look good against guys like that. But Martin retires with a 15-8 record. Two-weight world champion with one championship. He's certainly an icon of that promotion, a real sort of I guess a trailblazer for Aussie MMA, who'll probably never get his flowers locally, but he is a big star in Asia, and deservedly so. So what are your thoughts on Martin Nguyen and his career?
Yeah, obviously that caught me off guard. I didn't expect him. I didn't have that in my thing that he was going to retire. But yeah, fucking what a weird fight for them to sort of let him. If they did have an inkling that he was going to be done, that is a weird fight to sort of give him, and but not surprising because it's we've seen one do one thing, so it's a bit of a weird one. But man, that dude's legacy is cemented, bro. Like we spoke about this through the week, like so far through this week, and we spoke about it a bit off air. But he's not going to get he probably won't and doesn't get the credit he deserves here in Australia for being as incredible a fighter and just a fucking role model for other athletes and people coming up. He's the man, bro. He's super, super nice, just a humble dude. Goes out there and just fucking puts it on the line, and he's had some insane fights, insane finishes, 2-weight champion. He's the fucking man. Like we sort of spoke about, he's a superstar in Asia, so as he deserves to be. So yeah, that's crazy, man. I feel like he's done it all, bro. He's done all that you're supposed to do in the sport, and kind of cemented his legacy, and kind of, been around the game for ages, man. Like, I think back in the day, I'm pretty sure he fought Jamie Malaki back in the day. Like, bro, this guy's, he's been around the block for a fucking hot minute. So, there's a lot of people probably now that are like maybe in the recent times that have sort of seen him fight and become fans and stuff like that probably don't know, but this guy's been around for a long time, and he's been in there with some absolute monsters, and he's put on some absolute fucking insane performances. I don't want to butcher the guy's name, but the guy that he leg kicked and then flying kneed. I don't want to butcher his name.
So his name is the whole alphabet. That guy.
Yeah, the guy with the crazy name. Yeah. But
so I, of all people, am not going to attempt that.
I implore you, if you've not seen this, just search up Martin Nguyen's fucking one championship highlights, and you're going to see one of the sickest knockouts you'll ever see. Just leg kicks this dude. Old mate starts limping, and he's near the cage, and then Martin just flying knees him into next week and absolutely murders him. So, and also, didn't he when he won the belt initially, didn't that dude try to spin or some shit, and then he hit him with an overhand right and slept him? Or was that not a title fight? Was that a different fight? It was like a Russian dude or something. I can't
remember.
What the fuck's that guy's name?
It was probably it was Marek Gafarov, I think.
That's
he
it.
Won the belt against. Yeah.
Overhand right, slept him, and we've seen him sleep people with that overhand right numerous times. So you're a fan of MMA, and you're a fan of fucking Australian MMA, and like people from this region that are just going out there doing shit on the world stage. Yeah, go have a look at this shit, because this guy had some fucking crazy moments. But also, it comes back to what we spoke about, right? I feel like people like us, for the most part, we appreciate fighters while they're still there. But I feel like a lot of people are probably sitting there going, like, probably saw that and go, oh, fuck, what? Maybe they're only new, or maybe they only just sort of started watching his fights or whatever. And they're like, oh, fuck, he's done. And they didn't get to be part of that time period. So that's why I'm going to say that again. Like, people need to appreciate fighters while they're here, because I like fighters like this, like Martin and that, who are absolute monsters and have done it all, and some of our fan favorites and fighters that we like love and appreciate. Boys and girls, they're not going to be here for much longer, and especially this year. Don't be surprised if 2025 a lot of your favorite fighters are done, because we're at the end times. The Justin Gaethjes, the fucking Dustin Poiriers, Martin Nguyen, like these people are. That's it. Like, we're in the end times, and that's fucking like the shit, because we've come to like watching their fights and seeing what they're able to do, and we're big fans of them and stuff like that. But shout out Martin Nguyen. He's a fucking weapon. He's probably, he's definitely top 3 of my favorite fighters, especially featherweights, that I've sort of gone to watch as I've been coming up in the scene myself. Like, just absolute animal.
Yeah, we always want more songs, don't we? But unfortunately, an MMA fighter's career is finite, so they're never going to be around forever. So Martin sort of exits the competitive stage, at least with 10 knockouts and 3 submissions from his 15 wins, and a pretty enviable highlight reel, as you alluded to there. And he's one of the good guys of the sport as well. So congratulations to Martin Nguyen on a sensational career.
Fuck yeah.
Now, speaking of appreciating fighters while they're your teammate Volk, Dana White has obviously made a big announcement. There's a couple of Aussies that have got world title fights coming up, and of course Volk is one of those. Old man Volk, as he's sort of alluded to himself. He's 36 himself. He's having another throw at the stumps against Diego Lopez at UFC 314 on April 12th for his featherweight title. It's been vacated by Ilia Topuria. And this is a guy, I mean, like, who knows how long he'll go on for. Like, we know that Volk's an absolute machine. He could fight until he's fucking 48, like Dan Henderson or Randy Couture. But, you never know. You do never know. And, he's got a big title fight coming up, and the outcome of that could ultimately decide sort of which direction he goes in his career as well. So, I guess give us your thoughts on that announcement, and, how sort of Volk's tracking.
Yeah, kind of. I wasn't as surprised or caught off guard that Ilya vacated, like probably people were, because I was kind of like, it made kind of sense that he was going to do the old, because like we've all seen, he's kind of shaped how he's approached his career to this far, and he's obviously, Conor McGregor's career was a big inspiration for him, and it's obviously early days, Conor was a big idol for him, so it wasn't surprising that he, won the belt. I'm surprised he even did the defense and didn't just gap it. I'm surprised he actually fought Holloway, but it makes sense. He beat Volk, beat Holloway, and then he was like, all right, fuck it, I'm out. But then obviously his coach and that have since come out and said, like, the dude can't make the weight. Like, it's just too much. It's just too much of a battle. Like, I think he walks around at like 85, 86 kilos out of camp. So it's like, fuck, man. Like, there's guys that cut down from that to get to lightweight. So, like, it's not surprising. But yeah, for Volk, it's awesome, man. I'm glad Volk finally has like a direction of. I think he knew he was always going to fight for a title on that date and at that time, but he just didn't know who it was going to be. If it was going to be for an interim title against Diego, or if it was going to be Ilya, or if it was going to be like. But now this is the scenario, so it's sick. I'm excited to see Volk go out there, and he's already been fucking doing like all of the training and fucking preparing the house down. And now obviously that's going to shift into a more serious and more high level sort of preparation when the camp officially starts or whatever. So yeah, I'm excited, man, because Diego Lopez is game. He's dangerous. He's aggressive. I think between them, they have 58 fights or some shit, some fucking crazy thing like that. So, yeah, this is going to be a banger of a fight. Diego's very, he's got a similar style, similar sort of parts of his style, similar to sort of Ortega, except I feel like he's got way better striking and he's a lot more aggressive and he's got a lot more power, and is opportunistic with when he uses his jiu-jitsu. So I think, yeah, it's definitely a dangerous matchup. It's a dangerous fight. He's a dangerous fighter, and he's game, and he starts fast and he's aggressive. But that's the thing too. We saw him in the Ige fight. He kind of wilted a little bit and started to slow down a little bit. Obviously, he was able to get the win, but he was definitely slowing down. And fucking Volk's not someone you can slow down against because he just gets better as the fight goes. And the longer it goes, the more he picks up steam, and people seem to sort of drift and fall by the wayside. And I mean, yeah, it's kind of just what you can expect if you let Volk get in there, make his reads, and his fight IQ is way too high and he's way too skilled for you to sort of allow him to do that. And the longer it goes, the worse it is. So I feel like, looking at it realistically, he's not like, Diego's not submitting him, and he's definitely not taking him down. So outside of like Diego having a puncher's chances because he's so aggressive and starts fast, I just don't see this fight going well for him, and I feel like Volk's going to put on an absolute clinic. I'm not going to be surprised if we see like a Holloway 3-esque performance from Volk and he absolutely just puts on a clinic, or even like the fight with Rodriguez and just puts on an absolute clinic and just completely breaks Diego and then gets that belt back. And yeah, then we wait to see what's next.
Yeah, we can only hope. And in that same announcement, Dana White announced that 4 weeks later at UFC 315 on May 10th, Jack Della Maddalena is going to challenge Bilal Muhammad for the UFC welterweight title. So it's another huge fight for this region. Obviously, Jack Della's on an incredible tear. I think he's won 17 and on the bounce since losing his first 2 fights as a professional. So, yeah, how do you see that one playing out?
I see Bilal being way too confident and walking forward and pressing forward to get a hold of Jack and get into that range and get into that sort of close boxing range. And I feel like Jack's just going to piece him up. He's going to hit him with combinations and he's going to be able to keep the fight standing. If he does get taken down, I see him sort of getting back to his feet. And ultimately, we've seen that, like with the Gilbert Burns fight, even if he gets controlled on the ground for 4 rounds and he gets back to his feet, only takes 1 from him and he'll put you away. But ultimately, I just see Bilal getting absolutely fucking picked apart and murked, and I feel like Jack's boxing is going to just, yeah, it's just going to break him with the boxing, because the way his boxing is so beautiful, so crisp, but it's so deceptive because he's not throwing anything overly fast or anything like that, but he's so accurate and the timing is just perfect. Like when he was at freestyle and I got the luxury of being able to spar with him, and that it's so deceptive, and it's like you can almost half see the punches coming, but you just can't do anything about it. And his timing's perfect. He's just accurate. And he's going to the body. He's going to the head. And he's touching you here. And he's shifting there. And it's just like, what the fuck is going on? Why? What is happening?
Is luxury the right word to use there? That sounds positively awful, sparring someone like that.
Yeah, it's not fun. Like I'm just like, and then I was like, fuck, okay, cool. I'll just wrestle. And I was like, yeah, sweet. I'm gonna try and just wrestle. And I was like, well, that's cool. Like he's still a fucking welterweight at the end of the day. So it's like, this is awesome. But no, he's fucking so good. He's so good. And he's a fan favorite. He's like a fighter's fighter too. Fighters like watching him fight. So, and you see how fighters react to some of his stuff that he does and combinations he throws. And fuck, man, it's a bad night to be that dude who's, Bilal. It's a bad night to be Bilal.
Remember the name, Lockjaw.
I'm trying my very
Did one
best.
job.
But no, I feel like JDM's going to piece him up, and then Bilal can fucking move up to middleweight because he reckons Dricus is such an easy fight, so he can maybe go to middleweight and start doing his work and get him work there too.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, hopefully both of the Aussies bring home the chocolates, and it'll be an incredible time to be an Aussie MMA fan, as it already is.
So this would be, if Volk and Jack both go out and win these belts, that'll be the first time we've had two simultaneous Aussie champions since Volk and Whittaker, right?
Yeah, did they hold the belt at the same time?
Oh, fuck, it's a good question, because I know Izzy and Volk kind of got their belts around about the same time frame.
Yeah, it would have been a similar...
There's maybe a little bit of crossover.
Maybe. Let's have a look. Robert Whittaker.
But I mean, still fucking dope to be two Aussie champions. That'd be hectic.
Yeah, would that be the first time? Let's see. We're gonna sort of keep the listeners on the line there. Do a dance or something, Lockjaw. Just keep them entertained.
I feel like outside of
So Volk won the title 14th of December 2019. I think Whittaker lost his title in October of that year, because I was just coming back from So there was about 2 months in between Whittaker losing the belt and Volk winning
all right,
the flyweight title.
Well, that'd be exciting. Two Aussie champions. That'd be hectic.
So yeah, it might be the first time. I can't think of really.
Nah, fuck it.
any
All right, we'll
others.
claim that it's already happened because we had Adesanya. So Adesanya and Volk was kind of
Oh yeah, surely we've claimed him by now.
facts.
Yeah.
We'll just take that. But no, that'd be sick if it's the two of them, two champs, two Aussies. Fuck, that'd be crazy. Damn. Because like what? There's flyweight, bantamweight, featherweight, lightweight, welterweight, middleweight, light heavyweight, heavyweight. That's crazy that two of those weight classes could be ruled by Australian fighters very soon. That's fucking nuts.
Yeah, given like the dominance of like fighters from
America,
the US
Brazil.
and Brazil and maybe Russia to a lesser extent, there's some of these sort of known MMA hotbeds, have produced a lot of talent. So for Australia to sort of push ourselves amongst all that, that would be a huge watershed moment for the sport, in this region.
They're just going to elevate the sport even more because then they have more of a reason to come here and do pay-per-view shows with two Aussie champions.
Yeah, exactly. And another huge watershed moment for MMA in Australia would be the Absolutely 100% podcast, episode 50. Yes. Could it come out tomorrow or could it come out next year? Who knows? At this point? We've been unbelievably inconsistent, but we're going to get there. We're going to raise our bat sometime soon, and it has to at least be before UFC 314 because we're going to talk about Volk and all that sort of stuff. But I'm sure we'll get in before then. Until then, Lockjaw, what do you want to take us off with?
Fucking tune in this weekend, Hex Fight Series. And then outside of that, I'm pretty sure the NRL season kicks off this week in Las Vegas. So if you're a footy fan, fucking send me your tips because I need them because I'm in a footy comp and I don't want to lose because the punishment is fucked. So help your boy out.